Hi everyone, welcome to our live. Hi. Today we have live with Ryan. Ryan Williams is a co-founder and partner of Wonderment Apps, which is a Los Angeles-based technology agency. They build software, apps, websites in different sizes. They've been working with companies like Walgreens, NASA, Casting Networks, to name a few. So we will wait for Ryan to join me right now. Also, I should tell you that you should wait until the end of this live, because at the end Ryan is going to talk about promotions which he has right now in the company. He is hiring developers, so wait until the end. Yep. And while we're waiting, please tell me what you're doing, if you're a developer, what kind of job you're looking for, or on which position you work right now. This would be great. Yeah, everybody is waving. Hi, hi. Yep, that's great. So let's see. I don't see Ryan right now. Let's check. He's not here yet. All right. Yep. Thank you. Okay, he is here. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well, thanks.
Okay, wonderful. So welcome, Ryan. He's a co-founder of Wonderment Apps, as I mentioned before. I already described what the company is doing, but Ryan has 15 years experience in product management as a leader. Also, he was working with companies like Apple and New York Times. So, okay, Ryan, can you tell us more about your Wonderment Apps company?
Yeah. So Wonderment, we're an agency. We were founded about 5.5 years ago, and we worked on a whole variety of projects. We put together everything from kind of large-scale technology through kind of new startups that are trying to do innovative things. We're based out of LA and in California, and we really take on a variety of different areas, but do kind of our main focus is blending really good product management and really thoughtful product use with pretty powerful and performant technology.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So can you also talk about your projects, some of the projects you've done already in the company? And also I want to mention that today the focus of our life is AI. So we will also talk about it more. So please tell us about your products and the project you've been working on previously.
Yeah, sure. We've worked on probably about, since the company opened, we've worked on, I don't know, 200 projects probably over the course of time, with a pretty wide variety of clients. So all kinds of things. We kind of specialize in some of the fields that we do a lot of, or we do a lot with entertainment. We do a lot with ad tech and marketing tech. We do a lot with some financial tech and real estate as well. Those are kind of some big ones for us. I think we also have done a fair amount in the logistics space. So we work pretty closely with stamps.com. We work in a lot of e-commerce. We work with iHerb as a client of ours, and so there's a variety. I think for us, what we tend to do really well is kind of go in on projects that people need to have done, whether they're front-end experiences that need to be rethought and recreated, or whether we're building like unique kind of like back-end, restructuring data pipelines to create something pretty powerful, and doing a lot of machine learning AI stuff, kind of blended in, which is part of the reason we'll talk today. But I think that it's trying to take kind of newer technology and bringing it to companies that either need additional tech resources, or maybe they haven't experienced it before. They haven't done any kind of major tech build outs, and they're just transitioning over.
Yeah, of course. I remember you mentioned when we talked before that you had an interesting project with advertisement tracking. Can you describe it?
Yeah, sure. So this is a number of years ago, and it was kind of in the earlier days of establishing the foundations of machine learning and kind of the beginning of one of the quadrants of AI, basically. But we were really early stage in like looking at how to optimize ad platforms really effectively, and thinking about what goes into all of the decision making when you're trying to create ad tech. And so if you're a human, you're constantly thinking about budget management, targeting, ways to actually get the right kind of audience and build those things, and ultimately have to optimize for those pieces. The piece that we were doing, we were on the publisher side, meaning that we were working with the people who actually run the advertising. So this was big mobile apps across a variety of different things, but they really had high volumes of display advertising space. And so one of the challenges that I worked on, and a lot of the team members did, is how do we best optimize for the greatest yield and the performance that they can get from the advertising. And anyone who's done it before by hand knows that it's almost impossible in today's world with programmatic ad spend and really fast data, that like it's nearly impossible to do it by hand and actually think, okay, this is the best kind of bid I could put in for this advertising, or this is the best way to do that. So you have to really train the machines to understand what is the best methodology for generating the most revenue off an piece of advertising.
To make more money.
Yeah.
In the company, of course. That's great. So, guys, also, if you have any questions, please save them. And at the end, we are going to answer all of your questions. And so maybe many developers are watching us right now. So please, Ryan, I know you have many developers in your team, but how do you manage them, and what kind of developers you are looking for? Like maybe seniors or juniors? Like, can you tell us about your team?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we keep a blend of, for us, like having a really good team structure is really important. And so we kind of have two levels that we work with. One level is we do staff augmentation. So we find developers that are pretty highly skilled, and they can walk into almost any environment and quickly understand what's going on with the mechanics of the technology. So, and it includes kind of legacy projects that are old types of technology that might need modernization. And it also includes like totally new, very up-to-date, fast technology, new platforms that people are building on, new languages that they're trying out. But like those developers really have to be able to come in and solve problems fast and understand them quick. So they tend to be more senior. They tend to have a wider array of skill sets, so they can flex a little bit more. They're not just stuck in one language in the back end, or they're not just pure front end developers, but they can do a lot. The other type we do is we manage teams, right? So we might take on a project, and in those we put together a team that can run together pretty well. That's where we work with kind of more up and coming developers that are learning, and we blend them with more senior developers. So they have really good kind of pods that they can work with and teams to understand. And in all of those cases, we try and match and train in a really good methodology for understanding how to translate product needs from the business side over. So our developers get pretty skilled in like asking the right questions and building effectively upfront.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. And where your teams are located? Which countries?
Yes, so we have a couple of teams in Eastern Europe. We have one in Ukraine, in the Lviv area, and we have another one in Belarus, in Minsk. And then we also work with some Russian developers as well. And we also have an office in Delhi, in India, just outside of India, just outside of Delhi. So we kind of work in a number of different regions for developers. But we also have a really good U.S. team too that supports supports the businesses directly and really understands kind of what the business vision is and translates it well.
They live in different countries, different time zones. You manage.
Yeah, you know, like it's so worldwide at this point, and we've been working with so many different teams all over the place. Our business is open 24 hours, so we kind of never really shut down. But we get to it's great to be able to have great relationships with people, you know, all over the world. Yeah, and you said you have a team in Belarus. And current situation, I'm really sorry for that. Like how are you managing that team? It's they're a really special group. They're an awesome team of people. I think like, and we've actually seen it a couple of times since the business has been open. Sometimes there's unrest in a spot where your office is. Even in Los Angeles, it happens. You know, it happens in all kinds of different places. But I think with them, it's giving them whatever support that they need and try and give them the flexibility for the working hours, because you don't always know what's going to happen. But, you know, for us, just staying together as a community online, one of the things that we like have put a lot of thought into is like how we actually support each other on a coding level, how we actually support each other on a knowledge base level. And that kind of translates. So for instance, a really common case for us is we'll stick a developer on a project. They have to go and work in a company that they know very little about. They aren't sure the problems they're going to run into, and they might be alone, or there's maybe two of them. And kind of the whole theory of our company, in fact, we have a phrase in the company that says, hire a bee, get the hive, which is like we put somebody in a project, but they're always tapped back into our company. So like, so they like, we have a really powerful like way for them to reach back in. I mean, the most basic being, you know, they've got a Slack channel that's constantly open, right? But they also have access to all kinds of tools that we've built over the course of time. And so we kind of view like even supporting people on a social level like that as well. So like people are out facing different things in different parts of the world that may not be the same for people in the other region, and so how can we actually like support them and give them that. So I've found that like just having, you know, it's like having friends across the world, like, you know, different people can support you in different ways, which is pretty powerful.
And people tend to stay in this company when they feel this special bond with the company. So
I mean, well, yeah, a lot of our developers have worked with us since we opened the doors, you know, so we've been just working together. And some of them I've worked with, in fact, on this machine learning project that we were talking about with AdTech. I worked with a number of those team members from years before I even opened this company. So these relationships and bonds can last for a long time.
Yeah, it's a good representative.
yeah, it's I love it. Like for me, it's like one of the best parts of doing what I do, and I always wanted to be working across the world, so it's been powerful.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
It's actually, it represents like how long the developers stay in your company, and also how willing they are to recommend this company to their friends to join this.
That's true. I mean, really, those teams build themselves, and it's funny. Even like the Belarusian team, actually, recently they did a celebration of our 5-year anniversary, and they went and took a trip in Belarus and all hung out. And I watched this amazing video they put together, and I was like, I want to be invited to that. I wanted to fly out there and be there. Coronavirus made it a little hard, but like it was amazing to see like the teamwork and camaraderie with like people so far across the world, and we're all connected through kind of creating really innovative technology and trying to think through these problems, and that's awesome. Like, I love that.
I agree. Okay, that's great. Amazing team. Let's come back to AI.
Sure.
And learning. Yes, in my blog, I always talk about the future, future of different technologies, how I see the world in, I don't know, 15 years. And I really want to know your opinion, how you see AI in the future, in the nearest future.
Yeah, I mean, with AI, we're still in early stages of it. You know, like we're just in the very beginning of doing kind of the basics, and like really narrow AI, and no one's really broken outside those bounds yet. And I think we're, if I look at it holistically, I think we're at a stage where we're just teaching machines like how to understand what is happening in our minds, right? And there is a collective effort of this happening right now. So we give it all kinds of labels and names and understanding, but like at the end of the day, they're only kind of able to make kind of rudimentary decisions, and kind of very simple decision processes still. Even the most advanced stuff can do that, and a lot of that is just our own capability of even being able to explain the complexity and level of like the decision making. So I think for AI moving towards how it actually truly mimics human experience, how it actually truly mimics the looking at the human decisions. So for instance, like AI has a very limited ability right now still to kind of take historical perspective on a situation and actually apply that to the current. And so it might be able to look a couple steps back and then use that in its decision making. But a lot of times what it does right now, and this is really what machine learning is kind of teaching it, take a bunch of data, assess the landscape, and make the best decision based on what it knows, right? And hopefully you don't have to tell it what to do, but it begins to learn what to do. And there's this other perspective, which is there is a history of decision making around that informs it on an even deeper level. So the more it can gain that data perspective, and the more it can also use its ability to look at all the variables that go into the decision making, is where that's where the real power of it's going to be. You're beginning to see a little bit of that in things like you know the car in auto and stuff like that, where it has to kind of make more real-time decision making and work that. And so some of those AI systems are pretty powerful for our perspective now. But like 20 years from now, I think there will be a gigantic leap where the machines begin teaching themselves. This is really where it gets pretty wild, right? And they can do it. They can look at it at a level and their own perspective and language that we can't even see it at. And I think that's where this gets pretty insane. But in this current stage where we're really kind of on this narrow focus, and AI can only see within these blinders, right? It's needing more and more data to make that decision making, and the better we get at being able to serve that data to it, the more powerful its decisions can be. But yeah, I think it's a ways away from kind of feeling like the robots that we imagine in the future, but some of the actual tools that we can use so that it begins to go beyond just mimicking current, process decisions is definitely coming.
Exactly. It sounds really exciting and at the same time really scary. It reminds me the last season, I don't know if you watched that, of Silicon Valley, when they created a machine which could unblock any kind of machine, any computer, and they're like, no, to destroy it. If people know it's possible, then it would be repeatable.
Yeah, I think like the ethics question, I mean, I kind of like it's interesting because we're sitting in this like time period where there's a number of technologies that we have that have these pretty powerful ethics questions tied to them. AI being obvious, I think the big one, and then I think VR being kind of maybe the other big one. But how we actually that's good. There's an interesting question on the data structure there, but the ethical pieces of like how we're actually looking at using the data and how much power we give the AI to make decisions, and take it out of our hands, you know, and so when we give them those decisions, we give it that power, and it gets really good at that. What point are we even obsolete in ourselves, right? At what point, as I was reading a really good article recently about what, you know, training AI to actually do coding, right? So the actual coders that we are, we're teaching these machines to do the functions, and this is basic machine learning, right? And but AI, right, one of its real gifts is going to be its ability to get creative, which is actually one of the human qualities. So as a coder, I'm creatively thinking through decisions. Am I approaching this the right way? Am I doing this? But once the machine has a capability to also make those decisions, are we actually just writing ourselves out of jobs altogether? So I mean, that's the more advanced versions of it, and then the very simple existing AI versions and kind of where we're at with it, they can be really useful. They can do it's all over the place, and it's making all kinds of decisions. It again on a pretty kind of very simple transactional level.
I agree with you. Yeah, so we will hope for the best.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
We'll go to just simplicity, not taking all the jobs, or maybe we will new jobs and people start enjoying their lives more.
I think it all evolves. I believe in the evolution of it all. So there'll be kind of interesting.
So since we're talking about the future, also one question I have in my mind is, since again many developers might watch us right now, can you tell us which fields they should pursue as their career? So what kind of I don't know, language or maybe just the field they should focus on for the future? Is it AI or maybe you would include something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is a big one. I think like AI has so many components tied to it too, and I think there's still a lot happening with the way data is ingested and transformed, and thinking about that kind of bigger problem of how we more effectively segment data for across whatever fields. There's so many companies that have a need, you know, for an intelligent transfer of their business knowledge into something usable for the business people that are working there, and for the customers, and then B, like something that can actually create the foundations to start putting AI tool sets on top of things so they can actually use the data, analyze, and think through that. Another version that I think is pretty impactful is actually like thinking about how we train and kind of go into that training process of decision making. And so there's a lot in actually the conversation with the artificial intelligence itself, or so that's historically been basic machine learning, right? So we're just teaching it how to do these simple tasks, but there's more advanced methods that are starting to work into the marketplace where the guidance will shift a little bit. I also think that there's all kinds of really interesting applications that are going to grow off it as well, and a lot of the creative side of technology is going to get more interesting over the next little bit too. So that's creatively thinking how we piece together some of these and actually use the technology in different environments. So it's no longer limited to just the computer or just the phone. You know, I would look at how engineering is working its way into so many different aspects of our lives. So a lot of things we wouldn't have traditionally had computers tied to are now going to be it's all going to be put together.
Mhm.
I also personally think there's a huge shift coming in the way that the monetary system is going to work, because I think it's going to have to shift, and I think that things like blockchain are like really driving some of that forward in the way that we're thinking about exchanges of commerce and working with that. And I think there's a lot to be done there in the financial system. So I think fintech's a big space. And I also think the way that we do kind of traditional things like real estate or property exchange and stuff like that, we're going to start to see a lot of those systems redefined a little bit, because as we get more and more global, that we all have to work together. So they're pretty powerful.
Mhm. Okay, that's great. I turned off the comments to to sum up the talk we had today. Guys, soon we are going to answer your questions, so we'll open the comments. So let's make like a sum for today's discussion. Basically, we said that in the nearest future, AI is going to be a prevalent like job opportunity for many developers. Also, it's developing really fast. Also, we said that probably it might simplify the job so much that developers are actually pushing their jobs away, which is, I don't know.
Long term. I don't think this is short term, but long term, yeah.
But we don't really know what will happen, and hopefully we will create more jobs or try to increase the salaries and, I don't know, enjoy our lives. That's my perspective. Also, Ryan talked about his company, Wonderman Apps, and he said that right now he is looking for some developers, and he also described his team as giving as much support as he can. And right now he also mentioned that they're creating some kind of events together. It's a really banded team. They actually really like working over there. As I said, at the end of our talk, Ryan is going to talk about promotions, which he has right now. So Ryan, please tell us some of the promotions which people who are watching right now might use as an opportunity to join your team or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of looking for constantly looking for really good developers. Especially, I think Eastern Europe is a big spot for us, but also really good kind of senior level developers in the U.S. and product people here as well. And then in some of the other regions I talked about as well, we're always looking for the right kind of fits in those different areas. So I think really check the job boards. We literally hire constantly. We're always looking for new people, and we're willing to work on a project level to see how you're doing as well, to get to know them. And then on working with different companies, I would say like we love to do a variety of different things, like go in and just work on small projects over the course of time, or even do different types of diligence and reporting to check and make sure that your different areas of the technology stacks are functioning properly. So those are good ways to get to know us a little bit and see how our team works. But yeah, those are good ways. So if we do visit our website, if you're interested in checking us out on a coding level, or our LinkedIn is really active as well. So feel free to come in and
the company LinkedIn or your personal LinkedIn?
Our personal link. Yeah, Wonderman Apps LinkedIn has a lot going on it. So be sure and check that out.
Okay, that's great. Okay, guys, so now you know what to do. Okay, let's turn on commenting. And we had a few questions already, so let's read them. And guys, feel free to ask questions right now. We have still a few minutes to answer them. So we answered the first question, the significance of AI in the next decade. It's the significance we covered. What role does basic data structure and algorithm play in machine learning and AI? I mean, I guess the answer is obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for those who don't fully understand it or know it, in the machine learning stage, right? It's really about teaching the machine how to make decisions, right? So it's ultimately so actually creating good data structure is helpful. There's and I think historically it was required, right? So it was required for the machine to be able to quickly understand exactly how the data is structured. And so you couldn't go into kind of a schemaless environment and do a lot. Over the last little bit though, like actually the machines are getting a lot better at taking dumps of data and analyzing it and being able to do its own formatting and parsing and actually placing it how it needs. I actually think in the near future you're going to see more and more of that, where you can just stick big dumps of kind of data into systems, and it's going to be able to completely understand what the data means and how to put it together. So I think it'll actually be a big use of AI in taking unstructured data and it's already being used like this to some degree, but like the power of it could just end a lot of pain for a lot of people who have these kind of historical data sets and don't know what to do with it. It's actually, and I think interestingly here too, is that the AI itself may look at the data different than we as humans can conceptualize it. So its ability to make those neural connections, and I think this is kind of the next phase, but the ability to make those neural connections probably are going to be more powerful than what we can conceptualize. So our simple data structure in the near future, I think isn't even going to be relevant. Even if we put it in like that, it'll just be another version of dropping data in. But like in the early goes of it, we've been teaching the machine how to actually read the data and understand what we're looking at. So,
Exactly. Right now, we still have to look at it.
Yeah, right now, yeah. And I think there's probably a number of organizations though that are starting to break that model and doing some interesting things with that. So you can drop it in big data lakes and let it work, but I think it'll get even broader than that. Everything will become a lake itself. So yeah.
There is also a question about learning AI as a beginner. I want to add something to it. I just want to say there are many books which are available, tutorials, but for me personally, I think we have to do as many tutorials as we can and actually working on our own projects to actually learn what's happening. At least this happened to me. Like I know, the basics of it, but if you don't use it, if you don't try to create a project and run it, you would never learn what to do. So basically,
and I think you're gonna work off certain platforms as well, right? So you might want to get to know one of them. I mean, Google obviously has probably the kind of the most forward-thinking aspect of it, but Amazon's got a really powerful AI program as well that you can start to get into and use a lot of the platform tools on there. So yeah, creating like secondary personal projects that you can get into some of those platforms and use some of their up and coming developer tools is pretty powerful.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. Thankful live stream. Okay, you're welcome, guys. Question for the guest speaker. So Ryan, to you, how did you initially begin working with the teams in Ukraine, Belarus, and etc.? Could you comment on the pros and cons of that relationship, please?
Yeah, well, okay, that's a good question. So I originally, I mean, I've been doing tech since the original .com boom in the late '90s. So I've worked with a variety of different people over the course of time, but at a couple of the companies, I would say the ad tech company I was talking about a little bit earlier, and then when I was working at the New York Times, we worked with some really good overseas groups, and I just worked on projects with people in there, and I got to know them. So I knew they were pretty talented. They were usually coming through agencies like us. I happened to be working at those companies at that time. I kept relationships and friendships with them, and then when we started this company, they were kind of the foundational people that I started to build things with and get connected with. And then we learned how hiring works differently in each region and began to build recruiting practices that made sense for those different regions, so that we understand how to work with people. Also, I think really importantly here is that they're, people coming from different cultures have different experiences with their work life and how things happen. So for us to become really well versed in the regional work life expectations and how things happen, we've gone in and taken the time to really understand those. And so as we've gotten to know the core groups of people there, we're able to expand and work within the framework of those different regions.
Yeah, I agree. And also it's changing over time. For example, in Russia, the hiring process is changing and education is changing. So probably you also need to adapt. But since you already have a team over there, they are, stepping up with the progress there.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is like finding people who want to be leaders and actually want to help build something and can guide new people coming in and train up and coming developers. And so I think finding those in the different regions has been it's just an exploration and meeting lots and lots and lots of people. So that's but yeah, I would say that even the difference between Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus, there's difference in the way each of those, even though they're pretty tightly put together geographically, there's a real cultural difference in the people between each. So, and obviously India is very different, and then the US is very different. Yeah. So those are kind of the main ones that we work with. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess the last question for today is Google invested in Indian agriculture with AI vision. Your thoughts on this? Actually, I've heard a few projects with agriculture AI in the US.
Yeah, I actually we didn't end up working with them, but I talked to a company doing some really interesting stuff with that, and I can't go into a lot of a lot of these kind of projects I hear about or I know about. I end up in non-disclosures around, but I did look at the agriculture space and kind of the way that they're using information capturing. So one of the things that like strikes me about it as an area that is pretty interesting and I don't know the specific thing around the Google and Google Indian agriculture play, but I will say around agriculture itself is I look at agriculture data as like a 360 environment, kind of like a biosphere. So like you actually are captured. There's really simple forms of data like how much rainfall did we have within this period or whatever. Yeah. There's actually a very complex level of depth in the data itself because the environment is ever changing and it has a lot of layers to it, of which we're beginning to understand different different kind of call outs within those. So things that we don't think matter, like what actually makes up the soil, right, might dramatically impact things. So I think the AI has as much information to work with as we can currently feed it, right, as we currently see it. So just creating the connections between the information we're gathering from the earth and passing it through in a machine so it can begin to tell us a little bit more about like, oh, this is actually a direction that it would recommend making, or it sees. Those are pretty powerful. But until we get better, I think more advanced tools for capturing the data out of the ag environments themselves, it's going to be harder for to expand beyond kind of our more basic weather oriented perspectives on it.
I'm actually a member of AAAS, and on the meetings we often discuss how to combine science and technology, and agriculture is one of the major areas. And there are so many types, not only in recognition of these factors, but also in how we are going to recognize them. Because some of the people put like some chips inside certain trees. Some people use drones to control, the water and other factors to find the trees which are under, like don't have enough water. So there are so many different projects, and just time will show which are better and which are not.
Yeah. I look at things like even like understanding the soil makeup of different environments, and whether you're even planting the right foods, or whether you're you know, or using massive amounts of obviously the global weather landscape seems like it's in pretty major shifting point, right? How do we use those tools to project against what's going to happen in the next 10 years? So the AI is focused less on what's happening now and more about what's up and coming. So you know, taking the idea of the Farmer's Almanac and making it a really robust thing. Either way, the AI itself, it should be able to come back and actually help us either. The simple version is inform us of what to do, right? But it also might be able to go out and you can use it in all kinds of tools that give you a lot more precision in actually implementing whatever changes are recommended. So and it might be able to do all that in a connected sense, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, thank you for this amazing chat. It's been really long, almost like 45 minutes.
Wow.
And
really
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
I'm going to post it so more people can watch it. And also, please, under this video, when I post, please write your questions, and we will be happy to answer them. I will try my best. If Ryan has time, he can also.
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Yep. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.